So whenever there is a breach like that, we start questioning the bank whether they are really implementing the security measures that we need or not. Whether do we have to switch to a different bank. So that is one of the reasons from a corporate perspective why digital trust is very important. So they need to make sure they implement big security measures and all. And adapting to the advanced threats, IoT and AI. AI is booming that everyone is using in a different forms, whether you're just using it to create images or AI portraits, or you're just using it to write mails or drafting some essays or anything like that, or even including personal information. And at the same time, Internet of Things. Many of you might have Wi-Fi associated tube lights or bulbs or anything like that in your home, right? Do you really know that it's secure? It is connecting to the internet, of course, but we don't know who has access to that. If there was an incident where there was a light, Philips light. It's just a normal light hanging to your wall, but it is connected to the Wi-Fi, and it was compromised. And of course, to the light, no one can do anything except turning it on, but it is still compromised. So there is a chance that every device that can connect to the internet can be compromised. As Professor and HOD said, right, there is no 100% security. Everything we just consider it secure today, and tomorrow it is unsecure. That's it. And what is the impact of weak security? And privacy violations. So whenever there is a compromise in the company or a personal information, it is a privacy violations, right? If it causes emotional harm, and at the same time, if it is for an organization, if it leads to financial issues, companies might go bankrupt because of these financial breaches and all. And coming to the operational disruption, as I mentioned, if there is a single compromise, the assets need to be isolated, and the aviation as an example, all the flights has to be landed down. There will be no transport, and it will create a chaos, right? So such operational disruptions will be there. And if it is in the medical industry, like healthcare industry, like different equipments or everywhere. I'll just say a short example. There was an incident in AU-ISEA, Mumbai, a few years back, when there was a attackers have compromised their servers, and due to the digital world, all the medical records for the patients who need surgery on that day were in these systems in the server. But due to the compromise, the systems have been down, and the surgeries have been postponed. They have been moved to different hospitals, and for a week or more than a week, they need to go offline into a different campus and all. No digital work for the few weeks for that hospital. So that is one of the medical disruption. And reputational damage. So if there is a breach, obviously, as I mentioned, you will be questioning the security measures in the company, and it will cause the reputational damage of the company. Have you heard about the Uber breach? How many of you heard of it? Okay. So there was a breach in Uber. Obviously, everyone uses it. We take auto or car, right? There was a breach in Uber that led because of a phishing mail from one of the employee. So they were able to extract the credentials using phishing from one of the employee, and that led to one of the biggest data breach. And US government and CISA has fined them in millions of dollars. That is one of the reputational damage, and also the financial losses because of that. And then we'll just cover these cybersecurity terms in a simplified way. Just a few of them so that we can go deep dive into the vulnerability management and all. So vulnerability. Vulnerability is nothing but a weakness in a system that can be leveraged by attackers to extract information or perform unauthorized activities. It can be just a vulnerability like invalid input validation. For example, a specific portal you are trying to access, and it asks for your name. What will you give? You're just giving your name, but it needs to be in alphabetical order, not. So developers who are developing it should not allow you to enter any kind of alphabets or special characters in it. So you as a software developer, if you did not implement such activities and such conditions in it, they might be able to hack it just through that. It is a simple name feature. Just a simple block of code that you need to enter your name. But attackers will use that to hack the entire application and entire server, because software developer did not implement the secure conditions. It's called secure coding. So that will be we will discuss shortly later. And then coming to the CVE, CWE, and CVE. So CVE is nothing but common vulnerability exposure. So whenever there is a vulnerability found in a new software or an existing software or in any application, it is considered as a new vulnerability, and it will be awarded a new ID. It's called CVE, Common Vulnerability Exposure. Something like CVE-2024-44228. It's a unique ID. So you will be able to fetch this vulnerability and all its details using this particular CVE ID itself. So 2024 is nothing but the year, and the rest of the numbers that I said will be followed to the ID. And CWE is the common weakness. Why the vulnerability was found? Is it due to the insecure deserialization, or is it insecure input validation? What is the main cause behind this vulnerability? That's the common weakness. There will be too many. We can name them all in right now. And this CPE, common platform. So in which application or software did we find this vulnerability? Like for example, Apache. Most of the servers that we use, that the software developers use to host the servers is Nginx or Apache. So if there is a vulnerability in the Apache server, that's the CVE. And coming to on the left, right, you can see there is an organization called MITRE. So MITRE Corporation is an organization in US that is sponsored by FBI, CISA, and few more US government agencies. So the MITRE Corporation is an crowdfunded organization that created a program called CVE program. So whenever there is a vulnerability found in a software throughout the world, it is submitted as a report will be submitted to the MITRE Corporation, and they will award this CVE ID, and it is unique throughout the world. So that's the MITRE Corporation who manages it. And as I mentioned, you can see the CISA, Cybersecurity Infrastructure and Security Agency. So this is one of the primary agency responsible in US America for cybersecurity. They will manage, implement rules. They will oversee all the software industries and IT companies in the US to make sure they implement the security measures. And so CISA is one of the sponsors for MITRE Corporation, and NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. So NIST usually combines everything, but it maintains a specific database called NVD, National Vulnerability Database. Whenever a new vulnerability has been added to MITRE Corporation, it will be added to the NVD database. So NVD is a single source where you can find all the vulnerability details. You can just fetch for an ID in the NVD database. You will get all the information. What is the detailed description of the vulnerability? What is the weakness? What is the platform that it is exposed in? And any other third-party resources, URLs, etc. So NVD database is one of the important ones. So just remember, because every organization, every cybersecurity company, every cybersecurity vendor or a solution provider will be relying on an NVD database. And then comes the exploit. So exploit is nothing but a method, but a procedure, or even a script that is used to leverage the vulnerability. So let's consider the example that I said, right? It's a log4j vulnerability. Log4j is a logging module that's in the Apache server we use for logging all the activities that are done in the Apache server. So there was a vulnerability in 2021 that was disclosed in this particular library. We call it as log4 shell. So it's a remote code execution vulnerability. Nothing, attacker don't even have to do. It's just that if you are using that in your server, attacker will be able to easily hack your server just by using an exploit. It's nothing but a script written in Python or Go or Rust. So that is exploit. And zero-day attack. Usually, when there is a new vulnerability disclosed, right, it will be announced publicly. But if there is no patch available from the vendor, that's considered as zero-day. For example, we all use Windows servers, right? And then Windows on every second Tuesday of the month releases patches, maybe for 100 CVEs or more than 100. So whenever there is a new vulnerability, Windows did not address, but a security researcher has disclosed about it, that's considered as zero-day. Like usually hackers will have community meetups. They will they will attend an event, and then they will hack into the Windows systems, Linux systems, or Mac OS systems, and then they will try new ways, new methods and new processes to detect and to find new vulnerabilities. They will disclose its information openly, but until then, Microsoft did not know this vulnerability has existed. So everyone knows this. The information has been disclosed. Cyber criminals like Russian threat actors or Russian Chinese hackers, or they will just leverage this vulnerability. They will just try to attack different organizations like education institutions, financial institutions, and all. But as there is no patch available from the Microsoft, there is no update. This is considered as zero day unless Microsoft has released a new patch. But usually Microsoft releases the patches in second Tuesday of every month. It will release a security updates in between, but the main update is released on every second Tuesday only. That's considered as Microsoft Patch Tuesday. And threat, as I mentioned, is considered as the group of criminals or group of cyber attackers, most probably known as Russian attackers. You will see in movies, right? And then firewall. So firewall is a device that is used to detect and also stop the intrusions. There are two different types of firewalls, IPS and IDS. IPS is just is a prevention system. It will try to use different rules configured into it to prevent, to stop the attackers. That's like there is a particular attacker who is trying to access the system. They are just sending multiple requests from the same IP, like maybe 100 or even 1,000 requests in a minute from the same IP. So there is a particular rule configured in the firewall saying that if there is a more than 100 requests coming from a single IP in a single minute, block that IP for certain hours. So IPS will do that. And IPS is an older version, so nowadays everyone is using IPS only. IDS will just detect and just notify the SOC team. SOC is Security Operations Center. We will talk about that a little later. And then social engineering. So social engineering is an act that will make people use social. They will reach out to you over an email, a phone call saying that we are calling you from a bank. We need an OTP to complete KYC. So we need you need to give us, or else your bank account will be seized for a few weeks or something like that. So what we will do? Usually, for example, all of us are educated, so most probably we will just ignore or go to the bank directly. But what will our parents do? Those are not using digital mobiles and all, they will just say, okay, they will just consider that this is actually a bank. So they just tell the OTP and I will keep my account safe. They will just tell the OTP, and that's how they lose all the money. We are seeing so many news saying that a software developer or a banker from Hyderabad or a farmer lost 90 lakhs, 30 lakhs and all, right? This is all because of social engineering. They are doing phishing attacks, either by calling you or either by sending mails. I would say don't click any links that you get in the WhatsApp or the mail IDs. Just try to, if something is, people say, right, you can get a 100 rupees Paytm voucher if you just click on it and sign up. Don't click on it. Just go to the Paytm direct app, check if that's really valid or not. If it's really valid, there you will get it. So don't click on the actual link that you get. It's just a fraudster. All you need to do to get hacked is just by clicking on it. Everything else will be taken care of by the link. So be aware of that. As I just covered phishing as well. So malware. So malware is another kind of virus that just keeps infecting systems. It can be just an attachment, like a PDF document in your mail, and you unknowingly you just forward that mail to your other team members or friends or anyone, right? And it will keep on infecting all the systems that it goes. That's what malware is. And ransomware. Ransomware is, I think, it's a procedure. Like what threat actors do is that they will infect a malware in your systems, and they will encrypt all the data that you have in your systems, and they will display a message saying that if you want your data to be decrypted, you need a decryption key. And if you want that decryption key, just pay me $100 million or $100,000 million over a bitcoins or any cryptocurrency, then I will share you the decryption key. So that's what ransomware is. They want some ransom for the decryption key. We will talk in deep shortly during the threat intelligence. And comes the patch management. So how many of you frequently update your mobiles when it says you have a patch update? How many of you frequent? Let's be honest so that we can know the expected. Oh, very few hands. Okay. Don't ignore the security updates. Usually the updates that you get in your mobiles or laptop, they are not just for the features. Of course, they will include the features, but the security, the vendors, the HP, Dell, or the software vendor, they will show you the update for the security as well. So they will roll out new bugs. They will roll out the safe measures for the new bugs that were being recently discovered and all. It's not just about software systems; it's about the hardware as well. The hardware in the laptops. For example, this is the Lenovo laptop. So there is so much hardware in it, and there will be vulnerabilities in the hardware code as well. So like the boots and all. The booting, it is associated with the kernel, right? So recently there is a vulnerability in the boot software of all the Windows. So it is easily, it's like threat actors can easily attack that if it's a server. Obviously, normal laptops are, we will be turning it off and all, right? The servers will be active 24/7. So because of that vulnerability, if it's unsecure, if it doesn't have a firewall or if it has a weak firewall and all, threat actors will easily attack that. They will just compromise it easily. But it's just, they need one access. They don't need a clear path and all. They just need one vulnerability. That's all it takes. So we need to patch our systems frequently. Whenever there is an update, just take a time, roll out the update, and keep safe. That's it. We will talk deep in the vulnerability management. Backup. Usually we don't keep backups, but when it comes to the software organization side, they definitely need backups because it is very time consuming and financial consuming to develop a single application for a software organization, whether it's be Infosys or whether it's be Accenture or any big companies. So they will be having backups in a secure storage devices. We call it as NAS. So we definitely need backup. It's just that even if a ransomware, if an attacker has compromised the data and they stole the data, we need the backup just to make sure we have the data, but at the same time, it's already been gone. So they might disclose the information in the data hardware. So obviously we are already affected. It's a backup, as it means just a backup. And incident response. It is a procedure that we implement once there is a compromise. So we isolate all the systems that were infected and all the networks that were infected, just to make sure that the virus or the malware that it will not spread to other devices or other servers or database servers in these systems. Just consider like the coronavirus. When there was a coronavirus, like lockdown has been implemented, right? That's the best example we can give. So in these systems as well, we just this incident response. The incident responders we call. So they will isolate the network, they will stop all the communication between that. If it's a server, they will bring down the server and you will just get 404 not phone when you are trying to access that. So incident response is a big topic. Two-factor authentication. So for all the banking or for all the website that you access, try to enable the two-factor authentication. It can be just a OTP, or it can be a two-factor authentication tool like Google Authenticators or Okta or PingSafe or anything like that. Try to enable that. Even if there is a chance of compromising your password, because people just use passwords like your girlfriend name or I love or something like that, right? Just avoid all that and then enable the two-factor authentication. Even if your password is compromised, you still have protection. No one can get your OTP because you have your SIM. Okay. Before we get to vulnerability management, anyone have any questions? Because vulnerability management, we will dive deep. There will be different slides. We will talk all the stages in it. We will go deeper into it. Any questions? Okay. Good. Okay. Then, so this is the life cycle of vulnerability management. Before covering all the stages in it, I'll just tell you what is vulnerability management. So vulnerability management is a cyclical process of detecting, processing, and prioritizing and remediating all the vulnerabilities in an organization. As I mentioned, it's a cyclical process. Either it's a monthly or quarterly or even a yearly or a weekly process. You have to do it. That's what vulnerability management is. So there are 5 stages in it. First, discovery. We will discover all the assets that we have, either in an organization, that might be a software company or an education institution or anything else. Even in your home, we will have almost, if you have 4 people in your home, you will have 4 cell phones, 1 smart TV, 1 router, and a few more devices, right? Maybe laptops. So you should know what are the devices that you have. That is discovering. And one second stage is considered as vulnerability scanning. We will detect all the vulnerabilities. We will discuss into the shortly. And the third stage is analysis and prioritization. This is where this will get interesting shortly. And then fourth and fifth stage are considered as reporting and verifying. Every organization will have a CEO, CISO, and a few more executive team. So they should get reporting of all the vulnerabilities or all the assets that they contain, and they should verify this. And it's a life cycle. It will keep on going unless you close the organization. So stage 1 is considered as discovery. So asset discovery is nothing but identifying all the devices that you have and categorizing and classifying all the assets using different tools or different methods. For example, let's consider a medium-sized software organization that's maybe a startup in Hyderabad or something. At least they will have 50 employees, so 50 laptops. If they have 50 laptops, they will have at least maybe 15 or something like that routers, and then at least 10 printers maybe, and then few Cisco internal phones. Let's consider total 100 assets. Okay, and they are software developers, so they are developing at least 3 or 5 applications at the same time. They have 10 servers, and then they have at least 15 or databases, and then 15 backup servers. The list scale just keeps on going, just for a small organization. But when you consider companies like Infosys and all, they will have lakhs and lakhs of assets. Just the branch of Infosys in Vizag will just have maybe lakh assets, maybe approximately, including all the servers that they deal with. So tracking all these assets is called as a discovery stage of vulnerability management. So we have, okay, from now on we will be considering all these assets into different categories. As I showed, network, all the systems that goes there, whether the laptops or servers on the network devices like Cisco routers or any kind of routers, switches, etc. And then we have applications. It's the Android applications, web applications or desktop applications, thin clients, etc. And then we have clouds, which is Google Cloud Platform, AWS, and Azure Cloud or IBM Cloud, and so on. And then we have the endpoints. The combination between networks and endpoints is that all the systems, the laptops, all these, whatever that is connecting to the internet are considered as endpoints. So, but there are 2 different usages for the network and the endpoint. That's why I classified 2 different columns. We will discuss that. IoT and OT. IoT, everyone knows that information, Internet of Things. But how many of you know what OT is? OT is operational technology. It is industries. Most of the industries are relying on automatic process right now. All the car manufacturers, they don't just use humans to weld the body parts or paint it and all. They use robotic machines to process, fasten the process and all. Those are operational technology. Those are completely different. Those are not updated. They are just use legacy. Legacy is called some older softwares developed in 2000, early 90s. So they don't just update them frequently, because updating an OT technology in an industry will take years for them to do it, because they need to turn down the production for the time being and do it. So coming to the network, we have different tools I have mentioned here. So one is Nmap, Advanced IP Scanner and Scan-Based Discovery. So Nmap is one of the best tools that's in the world that we can use for discovering all the assets that are connected to the Wi-Fi. Now, just in case, right, I'm using the AU-ISEA Wi-Fi. Whoever is using AU-ISEA Wi-Fi, if I'm an admin to that, if I have access to that router, I will be able to do an Nmap and fetch all the assets, all the IP addresses for those assets that are connected to the Wi-Fi. We use Nmap. There are multiple procedures to use, and we just tell it to find all the devices that it can, or we can give specific IP ranges, saying I just find this range of IPs or a set of range, or we can even give a domain name like ontrauniversity.com, and it will fetch all the assets. Advanced IP scanner. It is a Windows-based scanner. We have it in all your Windows laptops. It's a default software, so you can just give an IP address range and ask it to scan all the IPs that are connected to your Wi-Fi. And scanner-based discovery. So in the next stage, we will discuss about the scanners. Most of the vulnerability scanners that we have right now available in the world will have their own host discovery models as well. We will talk that. And then comes the application. There are different scanners when it comes to Android applications or web applications and all. But just a common, I have named few. Some of them are Webster, Qualys Web Application Scanner, Apple's and App Spider, and Acunetics. These are some of the top scanners that most of the security vendors use. For example, we use the Webster, Qualys and Acunetics. Then cloud. So, for asset discovery of cloud, right? This is a third-party company, but the rest of the three that you're seeing, right? AWS Config, Azure Resources, Graph, and GCP Asset Inventory. All these three are for those cloud platforms alone. AWS Config is a default in AWS cloud environment, and it can show you all the virtual machines or database services that you have created in it. That's in the AWS. And for Azure, it's Azure Resource Graph, and GCP will have its asset inventory. But Wiz is an Israeli company, that's a third-party company, which is a leading platform now for the vulnerability management in cloud sector. So you can integrate any cloud platform into it, not just the three clouds that I named. It can be ABM cloud or different Indian Ocean cloud, or anything like that. So Wiz will deploy agents, and it will discover all the assets that are configured to a specific networks. Either it's in internal networks or external networks. And then we have endpoints. So endpoints are devices that are connecting to the internet. So the difference between a network and endpoint, right? We install the endpoints agents in our systems. How many of you heard about the recent issue with the CrowdStrike? Like a few days back, there was an issue, and then all the files have been down, all the laptops have been down, and all the software employees were having a free day. You had it. Very few. Okay. So it's because of the CrowdStrike endpoint tool. It's called Falcon. So it's an endpoint tool that we install in our systems. Even now, I have it. So it will keep on monitoring your system for all the actions that you do. It even knows that I am presenting something now. So it will log everything, and it will also make sure that your asset is part of the asset inventory that the organization maintains. We will discuss further in the next scanning stage. And then we have a few more tools, which is called Timanti Neurons Discovery, Checkpoint, and Managing Endpoint tool. And then for IoT and OT, we have only few. There are only few organizations that does operational technology in cybersecurity. Those are Clarity, Armis, and Forcepoint. Clarity is one of the biggest, and there are few more, like few Siemens and few more in India as well. And the main reason why we need asset classification and what we do once we discover all the assets. As I mentioned, if we consider a mid-sized organization, we have 120 assets, or just consider 150 assets. We need to classify the assets based on different categories. I just named few. We will first classify them based on device type. What are those? We need to classify them based on device type of it. Workstations. We don't call laptops or systems in the office normal laptops. We just say workstations, because that's where employees work, right? And then we have servers, and then we have peripheral devices like printers, Cisco phones, etc., etc. And then we have database servers, and few then networking devices like routers, etc. And then the second classification comes to operating system. In a company, mostly it depends. The ITT, they give Windows systems a few, they give Mac OS systems to few, and then they maintain Kali Linux virtual machines, they maintain different operating systems. So we definitely need operating system based classification for the assets, because when it comes to scanning, we have to scan it in a different ways. We will talk about that. And then asset status. In a big MNC, right, we will just deploy virtual machines. We will keep on deploying. We don't know, there will be a stage when we will just forget about the few instances that we created. So we should classify the assets based on the status, whether those are active assets or those are decommissioned assets, or those are just sitting there, no one knows what that is. So we should classify based on status as well. And regional classification. The best example, Tata TCS. They have offices all over the world. America, Hyderabad, Delhi, and so many places. So what they will do is that they will classify the assets based on regional. They will say that these are the assets that are from the Hyderabad branch. These are the assets from Delhi branch. These are the assets from Illinois US branch, etc. So they will do the classification based on region. And finally comes the asset criticality, which is very, very important. Why is it important? That it's associated with business criticality. What we say, usually all the web applications that you access or the Android applications that you access are connected with the production server. There are multiple stages on the server: production, disaster recovery, backup, and in between UAT will be also there. So out of those different type of servers, production is the primary server which needs to be secure for sure. UAT and other servers will just be accessible from the internal network, like only the employees can access it. But the production server, the IP will be managed, connected with the domain, and using the domain name like underindustry.com, we will access it, right? So the production server needs to be secure at any cost. So it is considered as the very critical asset. In our organization, we will consider asset criticality from 1 to 5, going from low to up. So 5 is considered as very, very critical and very important. 1 is considered as least critical. We can bother about that later. Something like that we will consider. Okay. So all the production servers, the database servers, wherever we are storing the public information, all that considered as criticality 5. So very important. And then comes the vulnerability scanning. So vulnerability scanning is a process of detecting vulnerabilities in either in a systems, network devices, or in applications. That might be a normal software or that you install, or just the application that you access. All this. We use automated tools to detect these vulnerabilities. These automated tools are the configurations of different plugins we follow. So plugins are nothing but rules that are configured in these scanners which will detect the vulnerability. So I will tell you how these scanners work first. So usually, let's consider the Tenable Nessus, as I mentioned under the network and system. Tenable is an organization that works as a vendor of Nessus scanner. There are multiple modules in Nessus. We will use Nessus Essential shortly. I will show you the demo. So Nessus Essential, what it do is that it has a big library of plugins. Those are rules. As I previously I mentioned, like Log4j as an example. So what this plugin says that it will go to the system library testing and detects if there is a Log4j library installed and being used or not. If it is installed and being used, it will try to detect what version is it. There will be multiple once it has the library name, once it has the version and all. Okay, we can be sure that this particular vulnerability is present and this needs attention immediately. And then it will create a finding. So we call it finding instead of vulnerability when it comes to vulnerability management. And then it gives us the vulnerability details, where it was found, in which system we found, and what was the library, exact library, what is the file path in it, where this particular library was stored in the laptop, all such details. So when it comes to the scanners, right, these are very costly. Usually scanners are license based, most of the organization, because there will be so much work going on behind developing and maintaining all these scanners. So most of the scanners that you are seeing here are paid ones, licensed ones. So organizations, all the big organizations who are doing vulnerability management for their laptops, we will be using this. To enable SS, Qualys, and Rapid7 IBM. There are a few more as well, but these are some of the top scanners for the systems and the network. And then comes to the web application. So we have the academics, so OWASP, ZAP, and Sleep, record, and checkmarks. In network, right, we will just do normal scanning, but when it comes to the application, there are different types of testing in that, in the application. We do dynamic testing, we call it DAST and SAST, static testing and dynamic testing, and there will be a different as well, it's called AU-ISEA. So depending on the requirement, we test it. Dynamic testing is nothing but once the development is done, we deploy the software in the UAT environment and we do the testing with the DAST tools. Like you see, there is a tool called checkmarks at the bottom. So this particular vendor has both the tools, DAST and SAST kind of tools. So we use that tool and it will scan all the possibilities. Like you just have a simple application, you will just enter your phone number or just a few details and create a beautiful picture of you, like an ID card. That's the only feature in the application. But when you scan that particular application, the scanner will show you too many vulnerabilities because it won't just check for the vulnerability, it will check for the insecure coding as well. As you mentioned, wherever you are entering your name, if the developer did not add conditions, not allowing the special characters or not allowing the numbers, this will say that's a vulnerability. It's free, anyone can download it, you can test it, some of the applications. You won't be able to completely scan it because scanning is a licensed module in it, but you will be able to test it. You can do so many things with the bulb, so that will be a different complete session itself. So try it out later. And then OWASP. The symbol that you see on ZAP, right? OWASP is a program that announces top 10 vulnerabilities. I mean, not on a specific website, but what kind of vulnerabilities that are top trending for the last 1 year. Every year it releases a report saying that these are the last top 10 vulnerabilities that are performed in different applications throughout the last 1 year. Remote code execution, buffer overflow, SQL injection, deserialization vulnerabilities, etc. So it will give you the report contains so much matter that you can get a complete understanding of all the top 10 vulnerabilities. That's OWASP. And at the same time, the same organization using all these data, they have created a scanner. It's an open source scanner. It's called OWASP ZAP. Some of you might be developing your own applications, right? You can download that OWASP ZAP and use it to scan your systems and then enhance the security in your system, in your application as well. And then comes the cloud. So as I mentioned, this not just at the asset discovery, it scans the entire environment. It scans for the vulnerabilities and mainly for the misconfigurations. Usually when we create an EC2 instance in AWS or any virtual machine in a cloud environment, right, what we will do, we'll just select the required systems, we will select required configuration and then create it. But mostly everyone ignores the security net. We need to make sure that the virtual machine is isolated. We need to restrict specific protocols from it. We need to disable the RDP, FTP, and such protocols from it. So all those misconfigurations will be detected by the WIS. It is a cross-cloud platform, so companies don't just use single cloud. It is just multi-cloud. So all those can be scanned by the WIS. And the next one is Prisma. Prisma is from the Palo Alto. Palo Alto is one of the biggest tech leader in US. It has firewalls, it has cloud environment, it has scanning tools, cybersecurity, everything. So Prisma is one of the biggest tool. It's a little bit costlier, so most of the companies will be using it, but depending on the budgets. And then we have the Microsoft Defender. Every Windows laptop has its own Defender. It's in default. You just have to make sure the Defender is enabled in your laptop. Previously we used to install the McAfee antivirus and all, but right now we are not even using it. We don't even have to use it. Defender has so much capability that it can detect if there is an exploit being running in your system or if anyone is trying to attack something like that. But when it comes to the organizations, they use Active Directory and domain control. So Microsoft, whenever we are using Active Directory and all, right, we have a cloud platform of the Defender. So with the cloud platform, we will be able to manage all the systems and the vulnerabilities in the Defender. So Defender will be used by some of the top companies as well. Even though they use a third-party scanner, they will still use Defender. And then comes the Orca Security. It is one of the other provider. It's a well-known provider as well. And then a few characteristics regarding the vulnerability scanning. Right, we need to whenever we are scanning, we will consider all this like scan policy and scope. So scope is nothing but the assets that you have discovered in the asset discovery process. All the assets are considered as scope. We call it like, as I mentioned, we need to scan all the network assets and system assets with a different scanner, and then we need to scan all the applications with a application scanner, right? That's why we were classifying in the first step, that in the asset discovery we are classifying with different characteristics, right? So here we are doing different type of scans. Those are considered as different scopes. Network scope is all the systems and servers. Web application scope is all the applications and Android applications and so on. Scan policy is, in every scanner we need to configure a policy saying that how much stress it can put on the server. Like, can it send 100 requests at a time, or can it send 1,000 requests at a time, and how much stress of it can it put on the servers. Like, because every scanner like Nessus will have some, maybe even 50,000 or 70,000 plugins rules in it. It will try every rules, and once only after checking every rule, it will stop scanning. So it's like in a few minutes it will scan the system and it will complete all the rules. So under the scan policy, we will configure how many rules it should check. Because at the same time, we will be using the same server people will be using, right? So we don't want that server to be down. So we have to configure this scan policy carefully. And at the same time, we will also configure the ports that it should try. Whether it should try normal ports that are open, or the well-known ports like FTP and RDP or SSH, all these ports, or it should just exclude, and so on. And comes the agent and host-based scanning. So there are two different ways that we can scan. Host-based scanning is we just give the specific site ranges or IP addresses or domain name and just tell it that scan whatever the assets that are matching with this. That's it. That's host-based scanning. But when it comes to agent-based scanning, so if you see there is a Qualys scanner, we call it's named as Qualys VMDR. So in that we will deploy agent. Agent is nothing but a short script that we deploy in the client systems that will keep. It's like an endpoint tool, but instead of acting like an endpoint tool, it will just scan the entire system. Then when we start scanning, it will detect all the software that are installed. It will detect all the vulnerabilities in it, and it prepares a short report and sends it back to the cloud environment where we manage all the data. That's the agent-based scanning. And comes the authenticated and unauthenticated. So if we turn on the laptop without giving the fingerprint or password, it is still turned on, but we won't see any applications. Likewise, we know the systems are active and we will scan with this scanner. But if those are without authentication, it will try to detect whatever it can tell. It won't go in deep. It won't be able to access the folders in it. It won't be able to tell you the exact versions that are being used with the unauthenticated scans. But when you do authenticate, it's like we will create a specific user for these scanners, and then we will configure in the scan policy. We will tell the it's like out of all the assets in the domain controller, we will create a specific user for the scanner, and we will give it to the scan policy. This scanner will use these credentials to access the laptops or servers. It will log into it, and then with all the access that it has as an admin, it will detect all the vulnerabilities, access every file that you have in the system, every software that is installed. And then flexible reporting formats. All these scanners will have different flexibility. We can generate formats in a different way. For example, a CEO of a company, he manages maybe 2 or 3 branches and then thousands of people, lakhs of systems. He don't need all the details of all those systems. He just need the executive report. The executive report of Hyderabad branch. So, and then the software developer needs the technical details. Where is the vulnerability in this specific application? Where is the vulnerability? What is the possible cause and how can we remediate the vulnerability in the application? Same for the IT teams as well who remediate the vulnerabilities. So we will be having different flexibility to generate reports in different formats, executive report, development report, and technical reports, and at the same time formats as in JSON report, XML, PDF, docs, etc. Everything. And one more thing is that all these scanners will assign the security to the finding. So security decides whether this finding is critical or not. So security goes from info level to the critical level. So critical, high, medium, low, and info. Info is considered as very low. We don't have to prioritize it. But critical is super important that you need to address it immediately. So all these scanners will have their own configuration and it will give us a lot of security for the vulnerability based on different factors. What is the level of easiness that attacker can exploit it easily? It's like log4j has 10 out of 10. It's like security users even give above that if it's allowed. So it's a very, very critical vulnerability, so they gave 10 for it. So if it's a 6, it's a medium vulnerability. It's like it needs importance, but we also consider different factors. We will just discuss in the next step. Stage 3 is analysis and prioritization. This is one of the biggest important steps in vulnerability management, where different organizations will have individual teams just to analyze the vulnerabilities and prioritize and create a strategy. So in this stage, what we do is that we analyze all the vulnerabilities and then rank all the vulnerabilities and prioritize vulnerabilities based on different factors like what are the potential impact, exploitability, and the other contextual factors as well. So there is a topic called risk quantification. What it is that for all the vulnerabilities, we analyze them and we allot a risk to that. So in the organizations, obviously, based on the organization's rules and their policies, right, they will create their own metrics. Based on that, they will allot a risk to that, saying that, okay, there is a vulnerability in a particular production server, it is crucial to us, so let's allot a risk, calculate risk to that. The risk will be calculated, as I mentioned, different factors, production server or not, what is the server, whether it's a publicly accessible server or not, or just an internal server. If it's a publicly accessible server, does it contain any client information or does it contain any public information like personal details, addresses, etc. or not? And at the same time, what happens if someone hacks it? If it is down, how much will be the business loss, how much will be the reputational damage, etc. All those factors will be considered while allotting a risk. That's called risk quantification. So all the companies who do vulnerability management, they do risk-based prioritization. It's a process that they prioritize vulnerabilities based on the risk that they calculated. So usually, as I mentioned, like 150 computers, 150 devices. So out of 150 devices, when you perform a scanning, maybe you will get at least 1,000 findings. What will you prioritize? Which finding or which system will you prioritize and remediate faster? With a short scale company, as I mentioned, 150 devices, they will just have maybe 1 or 2 IT teams. And which system will they prioritize? Like, will they prioritize the CEO system first or the manager system first? No, they will prioritize the system that has highest risk, whether it's a server or whether it's a system, whether it's a laptop who is developing the critical applications, something like that. But when it comes to different large-scale industries, right, they will have 1 lakh assets for sure, and 1 lakh assets will bring at least 1 million findings. Out of 1 million findings, even if they have a separate team of maybe 50 IT engineers, it will still be a struggle to prioritize findings and remediate. By the time they remediate, their next cycle will come again. So what they do is the risk-based prioritization. Then we consider all the 8 factors and even more. So we'll just go through all these factors shortly. Severity and CVS scoring. So as I mentioned, scanner severity that we got from the scanner, and at the same time, unweighted database contains the severity, actual severity who reported the vulnerability, and that's the CVS scoring. So using those information, we will prioritize and asset criticality, whether it's a production server or just a UAT server or a normal system, and what is the environment like, and also asset accessibility, whether it's an internal asset or external asset. It's like even if it has a criticality of 10 and it's a production server, but it just says internal network, internal IP address, only the people who are working in this company can access it, then it has a less risk and compared to devices that are externally exposed. So that's what we call risk-based prioritization. And then exploitability and ransomware associations. So we will check whether there is an exploit or a script or something like that already available in the public, whether there is any ransomware organizations or any threat actor groups targeting, using this vulnerability and targeting specific organizations like healthcare and all. So all that will be considered. End of life and end of support. How many still have desktops at your home? Like the normal box systems at your home? No one? At least few maybe. Okay? No one. Okay, I do have one, so I'm not using it too. But so all those desktops now, right? We will be using the operating system, not the latest one. Like we will be using Windows 10. Even in worst case, we will have Windows 7 like me. So all those are end of life. End of life in the sense, the vendor, which is Microsoft, will not be supporting these systems. They will not be rolling any updates to it. They will not be rolling any security patches to it. So if you are using, it's your problem. That's what Microsoft says. So that's what end of life. It's done. We don't release any new features. Just go to the Windows 11, the latest version. That's it. And end of support is end of life is about the features, and end of support is for the security patches and all. So mostly whenever you are buying a mobile like iGo or Vivo on right, they will say that security patches for 5 years. So after that, it won't roll the security patches. That's what end of life and end of support is. And then service level agreements. So every organization or the contracts that we do as a service provider or a vendors like scanners or whatever, we will have service level agreements. And even inside the company, we will say that without specific rules, running a company is a different thing. So they will say that the IT team will have specific rules saying that if there is a vulnerability, it is serious and needs to be prioritized, and if it's a critical one, it needs to be prioritized and immediate in 7 days. So that's the service level agreement. In 7 days, if it's not remediated and closed, there will be a fine or something like that, and it will go through the CEO, etc., etc. So every different category, they will create a service level agreement. Critical finding 7 days, high finding 40 days, medium finding 30 days, and low info can be 100 days or something like that. And available patch. So let's consider the Microsoft as an example as well. It's the simplest system that we can roll down the patch. Even it has hundreds of vulnerabilities, we can just update the Windows operating system and close all of them at once. That's what the Microsoft patch is about. So every patch Tuesday, once the update has been rolled, all the software IT organizations, IT team will roll all the patches to all these systems and close hundreds of findings. If it's 1 lakh assets, with just by closing just by rolling the patch, they will be able to close almost a million findings. All these are metrics only. And then comes the compliance and regulatory considerations. We all buy items from the Amazon, Flipkart and all. But have you ever had a doubt saying that, okay, I'm entering my credit card or debit card details in it, whether they are really keeping it secure or not? So that's the question when it comes to compliance. Compliance is that these companies make sure that the devices that are associated with finance or associated with public information are secure, and it's not just that they do it, they have to report it. There is an organization called Payment Card Industry, PCI. So PCI manages all the debit cards and the credit cards from Visa, Mastercard, American Express, and so on. So Amazon, Flipkart, these guys have to test all the systems, like what we do in vulnerability management, generate a report, test it, and submit the report to the PCI. And once and only once the PCI agrees saying that, okay, you got a specific score, you are agreed to do the transactions for the next month, it will be monthly. Only then Amazon will accept the cards next month. Until then, it's not allowed to use the credit cards for doing transactions in their website. That's what PCI DSS compliance is. And it's not like every company can do their own compliance. They have to get certified from the PCI industry and all, or they should get the compliance done from the third-party companies like us. Okay, coming to the risk-based vulnerability management platforms. So we have almost we took so many examples, right? Let's just consider that. 1 lakh assets, 1 million findings. How will we manage it? Like an Excel file, a PDF report? We can't. And then it comes to different teams in different regions and all, or different categories that we discussed, operating systems, asset criticality, etc. etc. Managing all those in normal Excel files and all is not going to happen. It's very difficult. So we will be using risk-based vulnerability management platforms. These are platforms that were developed and maintained by different organizations that companies buy and insist they're scanning data, all the reports into these platforms, and they manage their vulnerability management in it. So Tenable.io, the Nessus owned company, they have their own vulnerability management platform. Humanity Neurons, Qualys, Rapid7, Kena Security, and ESOF. So these are some of the few risks. These are some of the vulnerability management platforms that some of the big companies use. Here we use the Humanity Neurons for risk-based vulnerability management, Tenable.io, Qualys, Rapid7, and IBM. So these platforms have vast capabilities. Like we can ingest the data, we can manage millions of findings in it. We will be able to close the findings. It's like once we have all these assets, every cycle we will ingest the data into, and these platforms will process data and tell us, okay, it will even using an AI, it will suggest what are the findings that needs to be prioritized, and using all the factors that we discussed in the risk-based prioritization. All these factors will be considered by these platforms, and it will suggest what are the findings that we need to prioritize. And also, these platforms may have databases from NBD and a few more, and also from their own threat intel platforms and all. So, using all the data, they will suggest what are the findings that needs utmost attention to close. In these platforms, we will be having some of the features like custom risk scoring. So, as I mentioned, every organization has their own risk quantification metrics. So, as a client, if you are using one of the platform, right, you can configure your own metrics in it. Like some company considers that one is critical for us for the asset criticality, not 5. We want the university and all. But some companies just 5 is most important, and 1 is the least, volume for us, something like that. So all those custom risk scoring can be configured in these platforms. Resource optimization. Using these platforms, right, it is using AI to suggest what needs the most attention. We don't need specific team to do that. So these platforms have the capability to do that. That's what resource optimization is. And enhanced compliance management. As I mentioned, the PCI DSS compliance should be done for every month. Managing all this data offline is not possible, so they will use these platforms to do the compliance management. There are other compliances as well, like GDPR and so many things. And continuous risk assessment. So we will keep on monitoring, we will keep on scanning all the 1 lakh assets are there, right? We can't scan all of them at once. We will be scanning 10,000 assets at the first week of the month. We will scan 10,000 assets at second week, and so on. So we will keep on doing continuously. We will keep on using the platform. We will keep on uploading the data and doing processing into it. so risk assessment keeps on going. And then we enable better collaboration. So in the IT team, right, we have normal IT team who just deploys the patches and works on the updates, but there are security teams who suggest what findings need to be addressed and what mitigations they need to implement. So the collaboration can be done in the platform. So these security engineers can suggest how they can remediate. They can give all the information that the IT team needed from the platform itself. Alerts and notifications. So when we can create alerts in these platforms saying that whenever a specific vulnerability, like Windows have so many critical vulnerabilities. There was an example where hackers were able to hack the Windows system using the calculator. They will share a PDF or a mail, we just download it, and if you try to open the PDF, it will go into calculator, and through calculator your system will be hacked. So that's one of the example. So what we can do is that we can set a configuration on these platforms saying that whenever during the scanning for a system with this particular vulnerability was detected, just send me an alert. Send alert to the primary owner who is responsible for using it or securing it, and they will get the notifications. It's like a real-time notifications. So companies will be using very dashboards for all the metrics. We can't just go through every findings and all, right? So we will be using dashboards in this platform to understand how many findings do we have, what are the total amount of findings that we detected, how many critical findings do we have, how many are associated with some Chinese threat actor group, or how many associated with cloud ransomware, etc., etc. So all those things we will manage through dashboards. These will have so much capabilities that we can customize and we can submit reports to the CISOs and all. That's for the reporting as well. We can generate reports from the scanners and at the same time from the vulnerability management platforms, because these have so much capability that we will customize anything in it. And there is one thing here. For example, every month we are scanning. This month we got 1 million findings. Next month we scan again. We have reports, maybe some 900,000 findings. We need to know what are the 100 findings that are closed. Will we know it? If we manually go through everything, we will just upload the data into these platforms, and these platforms knows what are the findings that were found in previous month in this particular asset, and we will cross compare with the new data. And what are the it will say what are the findings that were closed. And with the dashboards, we will be able to see what were the remediation efforts that were put by the IT team, how many findings were closed in the past month, what are the statistics, how many critical were closed, and how many were associated with the ransomware that was addressed. Are we really performing well or not? Do we need to hire any new security engineers so that we can push this percentage? So all those things will be managed in this platform itself. Stage 4 is reporting. As I mentioned, with these platforms and with these scanners, we will be able to generate reports with based on audience testing for the executive reports, technical reports, statistics, and all. So when it comes to reports, there are few metrics every CISO or the CEO wants to know. Those are called total vulnerabilities detected, like how many findings were identified, how many were resolved, breakdown by severity, as I mentioned, and then mean time to remediate. So this is one of the factors that shows your team's capability. It will say how many days it takes for you to close the findings on an average for a different severity that we call. Like for critical findings, if it says 30 days, that's the average time that your team is taking to close these findings. So definitely that CISO needs to hire few more people and then improve the timing. Because critical, according to the service level agreements we discussed, 7 days. So they need to improve this mean time to remediate. And then they also want to know that in the reports how many were trending. Were there any recent attacks? During the Russia-Ukraine war, right? They were fighting there, and all the cyber teams, all the security teams were fighting with their laptops. Because whenever there is something happening in this world, like the Russia-Ukraine war, all the threat actors will be active. That's when they will be most active, and they will target government organizations and all. Even day before yesterday when President Trump was taking the presidential vote, right? All the different threat actor groups like Russians, Chinese and all, they will target US organizations. That's when the employees will be least active. So that's called, that will be considered as trending and ransomware associated. With this threat intelligence, we will be covering that, why, how we can find the findings that are associated with ransomware and all. And same exploit, all the exploits like for Log4Shell and all, they're just publicly available. You can just search for Log4Shell exploit in the Google and you will see a GitHub page saying that this is the script file, the Python file or Rust file, you can just download it and use it. So all these exploits, whether it is really available publicly or not, that's one of the factors. So CISOs definitely need this metric in it. Risk acceptance. So we develop software applications, right? In those you will use so many libraries. There will be vulnerabilities in these libraries, but what happens is that the libraries contain specific features that you intend to use. But if you update it, the updated version doesn't have this feature. So what will we do? We just we will accept the risk, saying that okay, this is the minimal finding that we have with the risk. So, but we still need the feature until we have a new version of it developed and all. We will just accept the risk. So CISO will keep an eye on it, like how many findings we accepted and what is the solution. Are we going to really get an entire software development team to redevelop the entire thing, or we will just depreciate the entire thing? So all this will be considered as risk accepted. Remediation runs and available patches. So in the reports, we definitely need how many findings we still have in our system that has available patches. There's just a patch that we need to roll down or close the findings. And by the end, if the finding is still open, why? Because we still have the patch available, but we were still unable to close it. Why is that happen? So CISOs will look into that and add additional teams or work on it to make sure the findings with patches will be rolled out on time. So every patch Tuesday, once the findings are there, every software organization will start working on it. They will roll down patches shortly. The faster, they're good. If they are taking too longer, they will be prone to attack. Verification. This is the last stage of vulnerability management. So most probably, like in simple terms, verification is nothing but validating the findings that we have remediated are really closed and ensuring security. So we will go through all the stages of the vulnerability management that happened, what are the efforts that we have put in, and then we will verify. Did we really did good, or do we have to improve specific categories, or how can we improve the security posture, or what better strategy we can come up with. So, for example, as a security vendor, right, we do vulnerability management as a service. So third-party organizations come to our organization and make a contract saying that every organization doesn't have the vulnerability management specialists. So they do have security engineers, they do have IT team and all, but they don't have vulnerability management specialists who can create a better strategy and risk-based prioritization. So they will come to us and they will ask us, help us with this data. So we will analyze the data, we will help them based on their risk quantification, and then we will suggest what are the findings that need utmost prioritization. So that's where we as a service providers, we will verify the entire process. We will get to understand the client's environment. We will understand how many security engineers are working, what are the tools they are using for patching, everything. And based on that, we will take measures to improve the entire vulnerability management lifecycle. And once the stage 5 is almost done, we will reach the stage entire cycle again, and we will just go to the first step again. Because consider quarterly scanning. Okay, you start scanning in the first month. Once by the end of the month you have scanned all the systems, you have the details, vulnerabilities about it. Second month you will work on it, close the findings. Third month you will report, validate everything. By then the cycle comes again. So fourth month you need to start the discovery again. in these 3 months, you might have new employees coming in, you might have new older employees leaving the company, you might have new virtual machines spun up, or you might have new databases, new servers, etc. So it's mandatory. We need to start again in the stage one, asset discovery. Again, discover all the assets, classify them, scan them, prioritize, close the findings, and then revalidate. So this life cycle goes on. And the main reason is that the vulnerabilities identified are increasing every year. So today we will just consider, okay, I have updated my mobile, so there is no new patch available, it's done. But tomorrow, by the time you wake up, there will be a new vulnerability. So every day, there will be thousands of vulnerabilities that are being added to the MITRE Corporation's CVE program. And the assets as well will be re-evaluated because we will be adding new assets and all, right? So this is the vulnerability trends graph. For example, you can see that in 2014 we have around 7,700 something so vulnerabilities that were recorded. That's when the CVE program started. Before that we will be having so many, but that's when they started recording it. So the number kept on increasing even though we are after closing all the findings. We have more evidence. We are using AI to develop the software securely. But we are also increased using the number of applications, right? So we kept on increasing, and in the last year we have around 36.9k findings. So it was too huge. And this year already we started working on the new findings that were disclosed. So this trend goes on. So vulnerability management is the only solution to keep track of all the vulnerabilities. I'll just show you the demo of Nessus scanner. Just give me a second. So there is a free community version of the Nessus scanner. It's called Nessus Essentials. If you want to try, you can go to the Tenable download section and download the Nessus Essential. But as it's a free version, you can scan only 15 assets with it. It's like a sample. So I have created a virtual machine and installed this particular scanner. I'll just really show you.
Actually download this using your college ID. Okay? You have to register with your college ID and then you can have it.
Yeah, anyway, it's also.
College ID so you have some extra features. Just try that. So now you know the difference between a bug, a threat, vulnerability and exploit. Marco was telling all these, right? Now we are into using the tool with those concepts. So what is a bug? What is a bug? Bug. Yeah. Something which the coder has forgotten to implement. Some missing condition. Okay, if something is true, then a code is written. But for else, we do not have it. Some kind of a. Okay. Then what is a threat? What is a vulnerability? What is the difference? He just told. Vulnerability is So the window door is broken, the grill is loose. That is vulnerability. Okay? And what is the threat? If the door is weak, the grill is weak, it can be unscrewed. What is the threat? So somebody can easily open it and get it. That is the threat. Until somebody discovers the vulnerability, there is no threat. But somebody discovered it, and then there is a threat until somebody doesn't exploit it. Okay? Now what is an exploit? Somebody really moves the grill and then gets it. That is somebody exploiting. Okay? Vulnerability is some issue is there in that software. Right? Threat is somebody discovers it and gets into and then gets hold of data or does whatever. Now exploit is using some function, using a tool, you really get into the system and catch hold of the data or do whatever. So that is exploit. Now it is trying to scan vulnerabilities. So where are the vulnerabilities now? They can be in a Word document, Word software, they can be in the operating system, they can be in any of the apps. Okay, so what do these vulnerability management tools do? The scanner does, it finds out the different assets and tries to find out where are the weak points. Got it? So that is what it is doing. You can try on your own laptops later on. Load it.
Okay, so this is an essentials union. So once you download it, right, if you want to try, you can download the Nessus Essentials and it will ask for an activation code. You can go to the Tenable website, just give your base details like name and mail ID. You will get an activation code to your mail ID. You can enter the bar activation code and activate it. But it's a big file, so it will take few hours to download all the plugins. As I mentioned, there will be thousands of plugins, so it will download the plugins, compile it, and make it run. I have already done the process, it will take too many hours. So in this way, okay, so we can see that, right? So this is, as I mentioned, scanner-based host discovery. So we can perform the host discovery from the scanner itself. So this particular scanner has its own module. On the top left corner, you can see host discovery. So we can just give a name to it, description, and then we can save it in a specific folder, and also targets. It is little light in color, but you can see, right, you can give different targets, whether it's a domain, IP address, or site ranges, or anything like that. And then you just have to save it. Or even if you have a file of txt file that contains multiple IP addresses, a list of IP addresses, you can upload the file and then save it and run the host discovery. It's just the host discovery. It won't find the vulnerabilities. It will just check whether the application or the asset is actually active or just inactive. So this is damn vulnerable web application. It's an open source project. It is an application that contains so many vulnerabilities to practice actually. It's for learning purposes. It's a default, there are different vulnerabilities like remote code execution, SQL injection, etc. etc. So with this application, you will be able to learn all those things in different levels. You can configure the level in it, whether it's beginner level, intermediate, difficulty, and then you can try it. And actually, instead of installing that, I am using the Intra-Happiness DBW application. So let's just try to scan, host discover this with this scanner. So we have the IP that we need to discover, and then we can also schedule this host discovery, and then we can enable the notifications and all. So this is where the stand like this, whether actually we are just discovering host enumeration, whether we are trying to see if it is active or not, or we want to identify what is the operating system running in it, what are the ports that are active. The common ports are like RDP, SSH, or HTTP, HTTPS, etc. But we can also mention what are the specific ports that we want to test, whether the port is open or not, or no. All the ports. We can customize all that. For now, we are just using the host emulation just to make sure the scanner is able to reach the application. So we have saved it, now we will just run it. Okay, you can see this status, it's still running. Usually it's a just an application, so it might just complete it in a moment. But when you are testing it along the side ranges or other ranges, right, it will take a few more minutes. As I showed in the stage 1 of vulnerability management, there are multiple tools, right, and advanced IP scanner and all. So usually, as a service provider, we have to make sure all the devices are connected. There will be a chance where these scanners might miss 1 or 2 assets, right? Because asset discovery itself. So we will use more than one tool to make sure we will cover all the assets. So we use Nmap first, and then we use this tool. So it's still doing it, but we already have the ping information from it. So as we are just doing the host discovery, right? We have a plugin that's saying that ping the remote host. So try to access the host, and if it's active, it is getting a response. So we are able to check that the asset the application is accessible to the scanner. So now we are good to scanner. We'll just initiate this now. The IT system created when we show something to someone, it will keep on working. So this is the API that we scan, which we try to have post discovery, and we got the FQDN. So this is the full domain where this particular system is, this application is hosted. It is hosted in an AWS environment, so we got the actual FQDN, and then we got confirmation from the this is a plugin that we try to verify that whether the applications are actually active or not. So here you can see the output, the host is up. We try to send them here the ICMP package for pinging it, and we got the response. So it is active and we are good to scan. So now we will we will take it there and we will just cover these other modules as well, and then we will start the scan. Okay. So you can see different modules in this scanner, right? We just did the course discovery. So this has much capabilities. We can scan in normal asset network devices systems. We can also scan for any malware that were already injected into the networks and all. But we can scan a mobile device. We can scan applications. We can do audit related scans, etc. So there are so much capabilities, but some of these are licensed, so we can't perform some of the scans. What we will do is that we will do a web application test. So we have the DAM web application poster, right? So we'll just scan this application and get all the list all the vulnerabilities. Before, okay, we'll just initiate the scan. So as mentioned, the host is while doing host discovery, right? Here also we can mention what are the codes that it needs to scan, all codes or any customs codes and all. So we are scanning a web application, so we can do a quick scan or we can do a complex scan and scan for all the vulnerabilities, or scan for a specific vulnerability like SQL injection or any other specific vulnerabilities that we can mention. So if you see here, right, we have the general settings. Another web applications, it will start scrolling after this slash. After the base URL, it will find all the different web pages that it has, whether the login.php, whether there is an admin.php or anything like that. First, it will crawl all the pages. There are open source tools as well to crawl that, like DBuster and all. So this tool will do the crawling, and then it will crawl, and then it will scan it. Traverse its directories in the case, for example, it found a folder called project, and then that is one particular folder. And after reaching the project, it will try if there is any other project folder in it as well. So it will traverse through the projects to different paths and finds all the files that it can, and it will crawl 1,000 pages max. Because this is essential free computation. But when it comes to necessary professional, it will crawl unlimited. There will be no limit. It will crawl all the pages of the application. So in the advanced scanning scan policy, right? This is all scan policy as I talked before. Here we can mention are we doing a default scan or slow scan or a custom scan. In the default scan, we are doing that scan 30 assets simultaneously. It will do 30 assets and it will try all the plugins that it has for each asset. So it will be too much traffic. Usually, in the negative side, what happens when we do a fast scan, right? For example, there is a resort or something like that. They have one office and they have 10 resorts and all. They need booking. People will try to book the resort and all. If we try to do this scanning with data, like their working hours, devices like printers, right? They will just print gibberish. One of our team member, he just scanned it by mistake. It's like a schedule scan, and it was just scanning it. And then the client reached us and asking her, why are you scanning it? Our printer just got hell and he printed 1,000 pages of gibberish. It's just a case. So we will schedule the scans, and at the same time it will scan 30 simultaneously. Even though here we are just scanning one application, so we're good. And then so it will try to access a specific asset for 5 seconds. It will send several ICMP ping packets, and if it's reachable, only then it will scan, or else it will just skip it. We are not changing any default configuration, we're just going with it. And then, so we can see the scan type as vulnerability, and it is an on-demand scan. We do not schedule it, and we will just start the scan. So the scan has started. It will move. Once it gets completed, it will let us know. So you understand how we can scan it. So you can install this particular tool in your laptops, go home, and then connect to your home Wi-Fi. Obviously, everyone has Wi-Fi and smart TVs, right? And once turn on all the devices that you have, your mobiles, your laptops, your TV, etc. Connect to the Wi-Fi and do an nmap or an host discovery. Then discover all the access that you have and then scan it. You will be you will see all the vulnerabilities, right? You will see mostly you will definitely see the TV because even though we use latest smart Android TVs, they say Android 9, Android 8, Android 10. Those are older Android OS versions. So you will definitely see some of the vulnerabilities on your laptops, mobiles, right? Just write as a simple project. You will get to learn so much from it. In the meantime, we'll just scan it. We'll just cover the plugin rows. So this is the plugin section of the scanner. So we can see different family of scanner plugins. So you can see denial of service, right? So this is a family that contains 110 plugins for denial of service. So it tests different applications, different firewalls and different tools that has vulnerabilities and all. So you can see many are related to Mac OS, Linux, network services, OpenFire, OpenSSH, firewall, parallel firewalls, and so on, right? This is a family of plugin that contains 110. It will check all 110 plugins. It will validate all the vulnerabilities. So we have all these different families. This is how the plugin is. And on the right side, you can see the plugin ID, right? This is a unique ID. Because we are using Tenable access, we can just go into the Chrome, fetch for a specific plugin ID, and we will get all the details. Which finding is it associated with? What are the CVEs that it will detect? What is the affected product? And actually, how is it finding it? What are the libraries that it is using? So all these details can be found using this plugin IDs. Every scanner vendor, like Qualys, Rapid Scan and all, will have their own plugin set, will have their own plugin database. Okay, this is the status. It's still going on. It's just 80% are completed. We just have to wait a few more minutes. It already detected a few vulnerabilities in the vulnerabilities section. We'll see at the end. Even for the application side, we do authenticated scans. If you see, most of the applications will have login portals. So even we just create a login sequence and give it to the scanners so that it will log in and also try internal pages where which you cannot access from the without logging in. In mostly we don't use Nessus for the web application. There is another scanner called AU-ISEA web application scanner. So we use that scanner. It is is completely for the web application. It gives more functionality and it detects every application vulnerability, and also, as I mentioned, the login sequence. We manually enter the credentials and load the sequence into it, so that whenever it scans the application, it will try the sequence, and then once it logged in, it will detect all the vulnerabilities that it can.
So, free of
Kinetics is a paid one. It's completely not even a community edition is available for that. But you can try the other tools like OS, Java, and Websuit. With the college ID, I guess you can get the Websuit Professional as well, if I'm not wrong. Websuit Professional also has the scanner. Websuit has much capabilities. You can even try brute force and you can manipulate the request. I will tell you one simple example. Okay? I will disclose the name itself. Most of you know the Corona, the electronics wholesale reseller, right? When I was in the BTech final year, right, I was at home during the Corona. I was very, it's like, it was boring and I was just trying different things.
there is a
It's fine. It's already a long time. So in that, I discovered the flaw. It's very funny that the Chrome is a big company, but it has a small flaw in it, but it has a big effect. Usually, whenever you log in, right, as I mentioned, two-factor authentication is the important factor that makes your account secure. But usually, insecure coding, right, there is a flaw. Usually, we log in, we enter email ID, we get an OTP, we enter the OTP, it will validate and it will say whether it's a success or not. But what happened is that, in the response after entering the OTP, the server will respond whether it's a success or failure. It is just sending a success message instead of sending the unique tokens like JWT tokens or cookies. It is just saying the message success, nothing else. So using the bug server, you can manipulate the request. Bug server is like a proxy that will act between your laptop browser and the server. So you will stop the traffic in between, and then you can manipulate it. You can test it. Even in the professional servicing, right? That's how the application testing will be performed. So I just modified the success failure to success and was able to log in. You don't do it. You should not do it actually. But there are programs like official bug disclosure programs. Those are called. So, as a responsible citizens, we will perform testing, and then we will create a report, and then we will submit those to the companies. That's called bug disclosure programs, or people call it as bug bounty programs. So we submit the report to them, they will validate, and if they have the problem like that, they will award the researcher who submitted the vulnerability if it's a valid one. There are many companies who is running these programs as well, like BugCrowd, HackerRun, and all. So different organizations like Google or Microsoft, Facebook, they will be their clients, and security researchers, independent security researchers like us will create an account in it, test their scope, and then submit the reports. And if it's a valid one, based on the criticality, they will award you either a certificate or goodies or some X number amount, or even they can they will name you in their website and saying that this particular individual independent researcher has helped us in resolving such vulnerability, something like that. So that's what bug disclosure program. We will at the end we will talk about all this as well. Since it's starting.
So till now, whatever vulnerabilities we discussed.
Yes. It's still running, but we can see some of the vulnerabilities that were discovered in it. main findings and a few more info level findings. If you see there is a vulnerability saying that web application potentially vulnerable to clickjacking. So clickjacking is a vulnerability where an attacker will send you a link. It will look like exactly the website, or it will just send empty link. You will just click on it. If you have the actual website logged in, like you have the portal, banking portal, you logged in, you are checking your balance, and some attacker has shared you link. You just click on it. It will just load it, but instead what will do is that clickjacking. When you click it, it will actually send a request to the website that is opened in a different tab, and then either it will transfer the amount, or it will close your account, or any unauthorized request will be performed. That's what clickjacking is. Here it seems the DBW has a clickjacking vulnerability, and also different directories that were discovered. It's like whenever you are hosting a application in a server, you are placing it in a particular folder, and then enabling the access to that particular folder of the main HTML page, right? So it seems we were able to access the pages. You can see description and rest of the information as well. So these are the pages that we were able to see. The scanner will give all the information. What was the pages that we found on the basic information? What is the vulnerability description? What is the solution that we need to implement? Also, any additional information as well. See on the right side, you can see right. We have the data from NVIDIA as well. It shows the basic risk score. We do have different versions. So you see version 3. Previously when it started, version 2, version 3, and version 3. Version 2 and version 3. Right now we are using version 3. That's the latest one. The base score is 5.3. So it's considered as a medium finding. It's still running, so we might get back later on. You might also get it out. We are just using a scanner to find all the vulnerabilities. So, what is pen testing or penetration testing? We are just using scanner to find it, but how we actually find if we do manually. So, penetration testing is a process that we manually do using different tools to detect, to find different vulnerabilities. It's not just about finding vulnerabilities, it's about manipulating rules and coming with a pathway to access the server or hack the entire thing. That's what penetration testing is. All you need when you want to hack is a single vulnerability that can let you in. But when it comes to vulnerability management, right, from a defense perspective, we need to secure the entire organization's assets. So we need to address all the vulnerabilities. So with the pen testing, we won't be able to detect all the findings, right? Because we are doing it manually. It needs manpower, it needs time-consuming processes and all. So we use these scanners.
So in your company, what are the things, what are the tools that you have?
We use too many tools, like we use the Nessus Professional, we use Qualys VMDR, we use the obviously the normal open source tools like Nuclei, MapIR, Shark, everything, and then the vulnerability management platforms like Ivari, Accounts, and all.
So these people want to become consultants or freelance in security. What are the things they need to have?
So if you want to get a freelance security researcher, there are multiple ways to become one. But the main factor is that in which way you want to go, whether you want to do pen testing or you want to do strategic cybersecurity or you want to do compliance related. So depending on that, there will be different topics that you need to learn and get certified.
So like which of these chosen will give them some projects while they are in campus? Whatever category you see.
How is it penetration testing one?
Pen testing in campus.
Interesting.
So for pen testing, what do they need to do?
First, they need to have a better understanding about the networking concepts, like it is a site ranges, OS and networking models and all. And then we should understand how the internet actually works, how the domain names work, how you, whenever you try to access an application, how it gets loaded, what is the basic architecture. Whenever you see an application, how is it loading it, what are the modules that it used, what are the libraries that it used. It's called, the first step of penetration testing is reconnaissance. It's about gathering information about the application that you are trying to test. Obviously, you guys develop some application or project after developing. Try to do testing on it. You test every module in it. There are, learn about the vulnerabilities that are probably there. Like OWASP top 10. That's the important thing. Open web security thing. So remote code execution, buffer overflow. Learn about all these vulnerabilities. Why there is a remote code execution, why there is a cross-site scripting monkey, what is the cost behind it, how can it be remediated, how can you test it or find it. There will be security mitigations that are already added to it, but how can you bypass those security mitigations? How can you still prove that it's still vulnerable? In the bug bounty program, right, some of the people what will do is that for a person called A already reported a bug. The company has awarded it, the company has resolved the finding, and they said this report has been closed. But few people what will do is that they will fish for these closed findings and they will try to bypass the security measures that were already implemented. So it will be never secure. They will keep on changing it, they will keep on updating it. So you need to learn the basics of each vulnerability and then bypassing techniques, and then how this vulnerability can be chained to other vulnerability. So using a cross-site scripting, you will be able to execute remote commands. For example, if you see on the folder, there is the URL says MyScans at the end. There is a folder called MyScans. From a folder, you can go back or you can go to a different folder. Or even you can open a CMD in it and execute commands in it. So that's what chaining is. So in this particular unit, it's nothing but a system path in a server. So we can open terminal or a PowerShell script in it, PowerShell window in it, and then executes commands. That's why cross-site scripting is one of the important vulnerability that needs to be secured, because we just write an example. For example, like you all know SQL, right? You might have already had the SQL topic in the DBMS subject. So SQL, just let's just say it's simple query. SQL, like you're trying to fetch your unique ID, like the college ID or something like that, saying that classes but fourth year first semester, and then name is this particular name. You're trying to fetch that. You are giving only one condition where your name is this particular X. Okay, SQL will just try this query. It goes to the database and retrieves the information. SQL injection vulnerability happens here. So in the query itself, we will mention at the end, we will add a short script additional query saying that we will add after the name, we will add a space, hyphen, or 1 equal to 1. What will the SQL do? It will either try for the name, if it's present, okay. If it's not present, it will try to check the 1 equal to 1. Because we are embedding the name in the query. We are just giving the name, but it is going into the actual SQL query. And 1 equal to 1 is true. So whatever the name is, it will give all the information that is in the database. Because there is no condition when 1 is equal to 1, right? It will just say true. There is no specific condition. It will just dump all the data. That's what simple way SQL injection vulnerability is. This is happening because the application developer did not add security measures saying that only alphabets are allowed. We are adding hyphens, which is a special character. That's not removed from it. It's called input validation. That's the security measure that you can add. In the names, just mention except alphabets, nothing else is allowed. In the mobile number, except numbers, nothing else is allowed. So that is input validation. That's the primary security measure. There are other things that we need to implement as well, but that's one of the primary.
So do you know or do you suggest any websites or places from where they can start learning?
Yeah, at the end I will cover what are the topics that they need to learn, where they can learn. Yeah.
And if they want to, do you think the AI-based career is better or cybersecurity career?
As we discussed now, everything is interlinked. Even I have to learn AI, even I have to learn ML. But the thing is that in the tech world, software's development will not stop. AI usage will not stop. Data will not stop. Cybersecurity will not stop. Everything is interlinked and everything will have their own career. But cybersecurity is associated with everything. We need to secure AI, we need to secure data, we need to secure systems. So AI security in there, application security in there, or data security in there. So data security in there specializes only for data. They make sure the data is secure in its transit or in the storage. They encrypt it, they do special algorithms to encrypt it, or they make sure the integrity from the CA layer is not modified. And then they use certificates to make sure by transferring they don't have impact. You guys said some of you using the railway Wi-Fi as well, right? There is an attack called MIDM. It's called man in the middle attack. So, if an attacker sitting in the same railway station was able to get access to the router because the enemy just used railway's Wi-Fi as a password, then he got access to the router. Man in the middle attack, what will happen? They will use a network traffic tools like Wireshark and they will monitor all the traffic that's going in between. So we will be able to see all the data that's going through. Obviously, you're sending messages and all. If the portal that you're using is an encryption, that's a different thing. But you're just sending normal messages or you're trying to access a specific portal. You will clearly see what are the portal that you're using. Something like that. Okay, we've got computer. We don't have any critical vulnerabilities, it seems.
Otherwise, you have a red.
Yeah. So here we can see how many critical findings that we have, how many high, medium, and low. Each severity has given a different color. This is assumed by red, which is something I think. And few of the information are from the Nexus saying that what are the codes that we detected. So it says port 80, which is a TCP port was found open. Usually whenever there is a port like FTP, file transfer protocol is open, it's not allowed. So it will say at least a medium file for that. But TCP it did not say anything. And ports like SSH or RDP, which public developer should not have access to, those ports are considered as critical. So this is a simple scan for a vulnerable application. You can scan it, and at the same time you can scan the network assets as well, your router or your laptops, your mobile devices and all. But it is the functionality is limited to the community edition of the scanner. You can use the open source scanner. In the second session, right, we will be discussing few more. I will tell you an open source tool. I will show a short demo as well. that has because it's an open source tool, it doesn't have any support and all, but you can scan everything that you have. With this we cannot scan mobile devices, but with that we can. So we will show that in the second session. Thank you. See you.
Okay, so in the afternoon we'll have threat hunting and intelligence session, followed by some tools demonstration, and you can work on your laptop without work. Okay, and then a quiz, and then whatever he will offer us, we'll try to take. Okay. Thank you then. Have lunch and come back. Let us meet in the cybersecurity lab, cybersecurity and privacy lab in the new classroom.